All right, welcome back to ABA Exam Review and our latest RBT Exam Practice series where we're going through the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. As always, when you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout-out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Jordan used to bite his nails for attention. Once his parents ignored the behavior, biting the nails decreased and then went extinct. It's been 2 months now, and yesterday Jordan bit his nails all day. What most likely is occurring now that Jordan is biting his nails again? Now, this is pretty clearly an extinction question. How do we know that? Well, we know Jordan used to bite his nails for attention. When his parents implemented ignoring, biting the nails decreased. Now, ignoring isn't always extinction, but planned ignoring is a type of extinction procedure. And when attention was withheld for biting nails is decreased. When we withhold reinforcement, we're putting the behavior on extinction, therefore, it went extinct. Now, what happened? Well, 2 months later, Jordan is biting his nails all day. This behavior is suddenly back. And why? What do we call this? Extinction. Well, extinction was the procedure we used to reduce the behavior initially. So the behavior went extinct, extinction was effective, and now it's back. So when that behavior comes back, a previously reinforced behavior that was on extinction went extinct and then now is back, we call that spontaneous recovery. Resurgence is similar to spontaneous recovery, except resurgence occurs when you put the behavior on extinction and also the replacement behavior on extinction. Now, that's a more technical term you don't necessarily need to know, but just be aware of it. And then non-contingent reinforcement. Well, we're not seeing any signs that Jordan was non-contingently reinforced for biting his nails, so we can't pick that. What most likely occurred is the behavior went extinct due to extinction, has suddenly recovered, and we call that spontaneous recovery. And when spontaneous recovery occurs, we don't overreact. All we do is continue implementing the previous extinction procedure from before. You overhear two behavior technicians talking. One technician tells the other that the purpose of a forced choice preference assessment is to identify reinforcers for the client to use during DTT. What is wrong with this statement? All right. We are trying to figure out what is wrong with the statement that the purpose of a forced choice assessment is to identify reinforcers. Now, what immediately jumps out at you when you're evaluating the statement? Well, to me, it's we're using a preference assessment, but the technician is saying we're identifying reinforcers. Why is that wrong? What are we identifying with preference assessments? Well, we're identifying potential reinforcers, and that's a big difference. There's a big difference between a reinforcer and a potential reinforcer, because with the preference assessment, we're identifying things the client prefers and they like. And it's leading us down a path where we can start identifying items that are actually reinforcing and can change behavior. But a forced choice preference assessment does not identify reinforcers. It identifies potential reinforcers. So what is wrong with this statement? A, only single choice assessments identify reinforcers. Well, that's not true. Single choice assessments don't identify reinforcers. Forced choice assessments don't identify reinforcers. That is true. These don't. They identify potential. And then C, the identified reinforcers can't be used during TTT. Well, we're not identifying anything with reinforcing properties, right? We're identifying potential reinforcers and preferences of the client. So what is wrong with this statement? Well, forced choice assessments don't identify reinforcers. If you are told to implement a most to least prompting procedure, what would you start with? All right, so we're using a most to least prompting procedure. What's the other prompting procedure we commonly use is least to most. And with least to most, where do we start? With least to most, we start by allowing the client to attempt the response without any prompting at all. So with most to least, we're going the exact opposite. When you use most to least prompting, and you're starting from the very beginning of most to least, you're going to start with errorless learning. Because when you use most to least prompting, you're going to use the most intrusive, invasive, necessary prompt that you have in order to evoke the correct response. And that would be errorless learning. Errorless learning prevents any mistakes from occurring. Partial physical prompting is not stronger than physical prompting. Modeling is lesser than even partial physical prompting. And graduated guidance is a type of physical prompting, but only as necessary. If we're going to implement a most to least prompting procedure, and we're starting from the very beginning, what are we starting with? Well, you would start with errorless learning, because this is going to use as much prompting as necessary, most likely physical, to prevent errors from occurring. Kate learned to drive in her dad's pickup truck. He would take her around the neighborhood and let her drive to the store. He bought Kate a Camry for her birthday, and Kate drove it to her friend's house. Kate is demonstrating what? So we're looking at Kate's behavior. We know we have Kate and dad in this scenario. So when you're given scenarios with multiple participants or people, always identify who you're looking at and whose behavior. And we're looking at Kate here. So we know Kate learned to drive in a pickup truck. She'd drive to the store, and then her dad bought her a Camry, what she drove to her friend's house. So she learned to drive in a pickup truck. She learned that response in the pickup truck. Now she's able to do what? Well, now she can drive a Camry. So what has she demonstrated? A, response generalization. Well, with response generalization, we have multiple responses occurring in the presence of one stimulus. We don't have new responses here. She's still driving, right? She's still driving, engaging in the response and the behavior of driving, but she's able to drive not only a pickup truck, but also a Camry. So she's generalized across stimuli. She learned to drive in a pickup truck. She can now drive a Camry. I'm sure if you gave her a Suburban, she could drive a Suburban. If you gave her a mini SUV, she could drive a mini SUV, so on and so forth. That response is able to generalize across these different stimuli. She's not overgeneralizing. Overgeneralizing occurs when generalization is happening too often in inappropriate times. It's good that Kate's been able to generalize driving from the pickup truck into her Camry. This means she can drive multiple vehicles. And then D, none of the above. Well, Kate is demonstrating stimulus generalization. For driving, she learned in the pickup truck, and she generalized to the Camry. Which of the following choices is the best example of punishment? What is punishment? Punishment is a consequence following a response that decreases the future occurrences of that response. That's what we need to look for. A consequence that decreases the future occurrences of the response that follows. Alex disrupts the class and is sent to detention. So disrupts the class response, consequence detention. Alex continues to disrupt the class. Was detention punishing? No. Why not? Well, it didn't decrease it. If it doesn't decrease, it isn't punishment. Greg throws his dinner on the ground and is sent to his room without eating. Greg now leaves his food on the table. Okay, so Greg threw his dinner on the ground. Consequence, sent to his room without eating. Greg throwing the dinner on the ground has done what? Well, it's decreased. He's leaving his food on the table. Linda tells her children that if they aren't well behaved, she will take away their toys. So this is a threat. And it's a threat because we don't know how it affects future behavior. So we can't say it's punishing yet. We're not sure what this threat does, okay? Always, 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 when talking about consequences, you have to consider what is the future behavior doing. If it increases, if future behavior increases, it's reinforcing. If future behavior decreases, it's punishing. So the best example here of punishment is B. Greg threw his dinner on the ground. He got sent to the room without eating. Greg now leaves his food on the table. In other words, he no longer throws his food on the ground. Greg's behavior was punished. A technician says, name 2 animals, and the client says, name 2 animals. The technician then says, try again, and the client says, try again. Client's behavior is a what? So technically, technicians don't need to know these 4 verbal operants for the exam, but it's important that you're aware of them because we talk about them constantly in practice. So we have intraverbal, manned, echoic, and tact. Now, manned is probably what you'll hear the most commonly. It's a request, okay? A tact is a label, and echoic is when the learner is copying what is being said, and then an intraverbal is like a conversation. So in this case, a technician says, name 2 animals. The client says, name 2 animals. Technician says, try again. Client says, try again. So pretty clearly, what is the client's behavior? Well, it's not an intraverbal because an intraverbal is like a conversation. okay, where the speaker and the listener are saying two different things. A man is a request. The client's not making a request. And a COIC is what's going on here, right? Name two animals, copy name two animals. Technician says try again, client says try again. And there's no labeling. Tacting is labeling. So the client's behavior isn't a COIC. Again, just be familiar with the very, very basics of these four. Interverbal is like a conversation, right? What does the dog say? Woof, woof. A man is a request. Can I have a cookie? And a COIC is what we're talking about here. And a tact is a label. You look at something and you say, you look at a car and you say car. A grocery store manager has a meeting with the clerks who stock the shelves. He tells them once they stock 20 shelves, they can go home for the day. What type of reinforcement schedule is this? Now, we're looking at our basic reinforcement schedules. Fixed ratios, variable ratios, fixed intervals, variable intervals. So we have ratio schedules. What are based on what? Ratio schedules are based on responses. And then we have interval schedules, what are based on time. So is this reinforcement or the potential reinforcement where once you stock 20 shelves, you go home for the day? Is that based on an amount of time or amount of responses? Well, it's amount of responses. There's no time limit to this. It's just as quickly as they can stock 20 shelves that they get to go home. So we're looking at a ratio. It's based on the number of correct responses. So then we ask ourselves, is it fixed or is it variable? Well, fixed is unchanging. It's a set number. Variable is average. The grocery store manager clearly says if you do 20 shelves, you go home. So it's very clearly fixed. It's a fixed number of responses in order to go home. What type of reinforcement schedule does that represent? Well, a fixed ratio. Break it down like that. Ask yourself, is it time? Is it responses? Is it fixed? Is it changing? And then finally, how do motivating operations affect reinforcing consequences? When we talk about MOs, motivating operations, we're talking about something that alters the value of consequences. Okay, it makes you want something or not want something. So we're altering the value. Motivating operations alter the value of reinforcing consequences. They don't permanently increase the value. They don't permanently decrease the value. They temporarily increase or decrease the value of consequences. And now that's a very technical way to look at MOs because that's what it does. Okay. When you're learning motivating operations, just try to think of it makes me want something or makes me not want something because it's increasing or decreasing the value of something temporarily. And then signaling reinforcement is available. What does that? Well, an SD, a discriminative stimuli. Excellent. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.